Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to repair a cable, how to repair a mistake that happened in your cable. As you can see, I have a swatch with 3 cables and one of them is crossing in the other direction, which means it's obviously a mistake. The cables I have here are fairly simple because these are only cables crossing in one direction, and I just made one faulty crossing, so you don't need to rip out the whole work. All you need to do is just repair this part. Sometimes it may happen that you realize your mistake after working a couple of more cable crossings. So it's still possible to repair the mistake that happened somewhere at the bottom of your work, and you don't have to rip out everything. All you need to do is just determine where the mistake happened and work on it. I've worked the beginning of my swatch correctly, and now I got to the point where I have the faulty mistake, okay, the faulty cable. And as you can see, my cable is 8 stitches wide, okay, so it means that I'm going to be repairing the cable here over these 8 stitches, okay. So I get to the point, I work to the point where my cable starts, and now I will have to drop stitches until this moment to cross everything correctly. So I take out my left hand needle here, okay, and this is the cable, the one that is wrong. Sometimes it's easier if you do something like that, if you take out the needle like that, so that it doesn't bother you at all, okay. And now I have to drop all those stitches. I can use a couple of things for repairing the cable. So basically I can use cable needles. I have different ones, those curved ones and thick ones. Well, obviously this one is too big, right, because it's bigger than the needles that I'm using, so I won't use this one. And these may appear too small, too thin, right? So preferably I use a cable needle, or a double pointed needle also comes in handy. Or as you can see, I have a needle that it can be attached to the cable in here, and I find them pretty handy for repairing cables because they are short and they help me operate. And sometimes I can also use a crochet hook. This one is obviously a bit too small, so I have a bigger crochet hook which can be used for repairing the stitches, okay. So now the first thing I have to do is just to drop the stitches. So let's go. 1, I drop the stitches carefully, okay, so that I don't drop too many of them, too many rows. I have first strand of work, okay. Now second strand of work. I have to get to the bottom of the cable crossing, second strand of my work. Now the third strand, and still not yet. Okay, so fourth strand. Okay, so I'm here, as you can see, and my cables are like that. So I take out all the stitches. And how many rows have I worked? Okay, so I've worked 4 rows, so I have 4 strands of yarn here, and this is the row where I should cross the cable. This is a left cross, so it means that I have to put the cable needle here into those 4 stitches, and I can use the second needle here into the other half of the stitches. Okay, so now I'm going to cross them correctly. So they have to be crossed like that. Now, the best thing I found that the best thing to do is not just to leave, the stitches like that, but to move all of them to one spare needle or cable needle and cross them correctly. Okay, so they seem pretty tight right now in here, but the cable is crossed correctly. It's turning to the left. And now I have 8 stitches here, and these strands of yarn are going to be the strands that I need to use for repairing the cable, because I have to go back to the moment where I realized I have a mistake, right? And this is the working yarn that goes to my skein, and I'm not going to be using it now. So I look carefully. I have 4 strands, okay? And I have to grab the first one. I have to work the first one, okay? So this is the strand of yarn I'm going to work right now, and I'm going just to knit those stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm still using the strand of yarn. It got pretty tiny, right? Which is actually really good, because then it means that I won't have to adjust my stitches a lot. And now, these in the beginning, they seem a little bit bigger because I had more yarn in here, so I have to move them to even them out. And now I have just 3 strands of yarn, right? So we do the same thing. I can take another needle like that, or I can use my cable needle, or I can use a double pointed needle, but not really my working needle, right? Because then it can get a little bit messy. If you can do it, that's fine, but why make things more difficult? And again, I start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and a very, very small and 8. So again, this stitch is pretty tight. I have to even them out on the needle. Okay, so it's looking good, isn't it? Now just 2 strands. So I take the closer one, and let's go. 1, whoopsie, 1, come on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the last one is, am I doing it correctly? Yes, 8. Okay, and 1 more. This is the working yarn, so go to the back. We don't want you. And the last strand, let's do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whoopsie, 5, ouch, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So this one is pretty loose, so we have to even it out. And you know what? I can actually, I don't have to use the needle right now, the spur needle. I can just transfer these stitches onto my working needle. 1, 2, 3, just evening them out a little bit. And voila, here is my cable. It's repaired. It's turning the correct direction, okay? It may look a little bit looser in here or in here, okay? But really don't worry, because once you block everything out, all will be perfect, and you saved yourself a lot of time. So right now you can just continue working your cables as if nothing had happened. Let me finish the work. Ouch, I dropped a stitch in here. Huh, see, you have to be careful. So that's why sometimes you may need a crochet hook. So I dropped a stitch in here, and it's here. It's a purl stitch. Am I right? And here is another strand. So if you look carefully, here is a purl stitch, and here is another strand that's loose. So it means I have to repair both. So I find that the best way to repair things like that is to use crochet hook, because then you can grab all the strands nicely and brilliant. Well, actually it was, by accident, but also shows you that you have to be careful just to work on the stitches that here you have devoted, well, that should be used on the cable. So be careful and see if the purl columns here, if they have all the stitches, right? So, and now we can work to the end of row. These are the knits. Yes, no stitches dropped in here, and 2 purls in here, and I'm finishing the cable. Well, can you repair all the cables like that? Well, basically, I think so. Yeah, why not? The only thing you have to remember is that you have to know where the mistake is and what kind of stitches you need to create to repair the cable, because sometimes these are simple cables, sometimes the cables might be a little bit more intricate, let's say, or they can have different shapes. So but basically, yes, I think you should give it a go and try repairing. So thank you. Bye.